Hello, it's Alex. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. I have got something to show you that I have made based on my non-shopping trip that I think I talked about. Was that on my last video as part of the Curated Closet? I will talk about that in a minute, but I did just want to say I did do another of those shopping trips, this time trying to find long skirts and a few other bits and pieces, and it really wasn't anything like as successful. And I have been delving more into the Curated Closet book, and I have been going through more of the steps, and I am now, for those of you that have also got the book, I am now at the stage where you're supposed to have gone through your wardrobe and raided and removed all the things that you no longer want, and you're talking about outfit formulas. Now, I'm going to put a poll on my page. I think it will come up on the community page, asking whether you're interested in me doing a video about that and where I've got to with it or not. I will not be offended if the answer is not, but I'm just because some of my wardrobe is things that I've made, but a lot of it at the moment isn't because of change in shape. And the things that have stayed have tended to be things like jumpers and, that don't really matter whether you go up or down size-wise. So I have identified areas where I have got gaps and what I'd like to make in order to fill those gaps. But there is also going to be general stuff about my wardrobe. And I don't know whether that's of interest. And I think I said before, I was sort of feeling it was a little bit indulgent. On the other hand, you might say, well, you've been talking about this Curated Closet and you've come to no conclusion, and we want to know what that is. So if you would partake in the poll, let me know either way, and based on that I will come back and report back, or not, and just quietly get on with it in my own time. That would be brilliant. I'd really appreciate it. I want to talk about things you're interested in. Okay, so on that trip, the successful trip, I tried on the All Saints slip dress. I had talked before about really liking the combination of the cropped jumper and the slip dress. A few people had said surely a skirt would be a little bit more versatile, but I actually, to be honest, I disagree. I think the dress is a little bit more versatile. And I had shown you this fabric from Lamazi fabrics, and I think I had said to you that it reminded me of some art, it reminded me of something, and my first thought was it Guernica, Picasso's Guernica, but I knew that wasn't quite right. I was in my head going, no, that's not quite right, and I realised what it was. I've got this Jacqueline Grogue textile design book. I've seen some of her bits and pieces over the years, and I really like her work. I love mid-century prints, and although a lot of her work isn't this kind of thing, it was things like, here's one I've made earlier, it was things like this kind of print. Let's hope the camera picks it up, this sort of thing, and where are we, this sort of thing that I had in mind. And that is just absolutely up my street. I love that kind of design. Appreciate it's not for everyone, but it's one of the reasons I bought this fabric. So I made myself a slip dress, and I've done the little jumper, cropped jumper and slip dress combo. The jumper I showed you, I think that was on my last video. It's the Seamwork Astoria, made out of this Viscose blend sweater knit from Lamazi. Still haven't washed it, so I can't report back on that. But actually, once I finished the dress and put the jumper on, it was a tiny bit longer than I wanted it to be, only because I don't have a huge amount of shape here, and what little shape there was kind of eliminated because the crop on the jumper was slightly longer. So I have kind of ripped off the band at the bottom, ripped it off, makes it sound like I was tearing it. I cut it off and slightly reduced the width of the band, slightly took a little bit of length off the body of the jumper itself, And I did the little split hem thing that All Saints have on theirs. Having said that, because it's against a black print, you can't really see. Anyway, gave me pleasure. Didn't take too long to do that. And I really like how this looks as a combination. And you know when something is very you, this is very me. Somebody asked in the comments about, or somebody mentioned in the comments about dresses and said that when I was logging my clothes as part of this process, there weren't really many dresses, and were they something that I would really actually wear? And the answer to that is yes, dresses is where I have a big gap. It is where the things that I have been wearing the last few years aren't fitting anymore, and I desperately need some new dresses. And I love to wear dresses during the daytime. You know, it's so easy, you throw it on, job done. And so yes, dresses are definitely for me, and this is definitely going to be my kind of daytime with my tights. I'll insert some better images, but yeah, with my tights and my docks, and I am super happy like this. This is me in an outfit. But I also thought it's super versatile. So if I take the jumper off, because you want to see the frock itself, don't you? If I take the jumper off, obviously there's an element of why would you make a very strappy bias cut dress in the winter, but actually it's really sunny and quite warm today, but normally it's freezing cold. But I think it works really well with the jumper, with the little jumper. I've been nice and toasty today, and I also thought that alternatively I could wear, you know, like a sort of long sleeve t-shirt underneath it, and there are other things I can do. There's not a huge amount of room under it. I wouldn't want anything thick. I don't think I could put like a jumper, but a long sleeve t-shirt, something like that would do great. And the reason I think it's nice and versatile is that obviously I can wear it in the summer with a pair of sandals, and if I was going out, I've said before, I never do anything super dressy, but if I was going out, I could wear it with a pair of heels. Job's a good one. Or I've got these particularly splendid boots. I mean, I've had these for so many years, and I don't know, yeah, look how unworn they are. I don't know that I've worn them very much at all. A lot of the time I just couldn't fit in them, to be honest. Anyway, I'm thinking night out, stick my patent leather boots on, happy to go. So I'm really, really happy. I did look at quite a lot of different slip dress sewing patterns. Thank you very much everybody who made suggestions, because there were some that I didn't know about, so I really, really am very grateful for that. I got a little list and I can't remember it off the top of my head, so hold on. Okay, so there's the Viky Sews Lacey dress. I liked this one, but it has got I don't know if it's got a centre front seam. I've written centre back seam on my notes. I can't remember. But whichever it is, I didn't want that. I just think trying to get your seams to lie nice and flat is hard enough when you're sewing on the bias, and I didn't want to be bothered with having that seam at the front. I just thought you're adding a whole extra level of difficulty that's unnecessary. The other is the Sew Over It Sidbury dress. Very, very close, and the great thing about Sew Over It is nice instructions, and they're usually pretty good on being size inclusive. That one has a wider strap. I think it's actually slightly pleated or gathered in at the top here at the bodice, and I feel that looks, well, I was going to say more like lingerie. To be honest, this is a kind of lingerie type look, isn't it? Especially depending what fabric you use. I mean, obviously this being a printed viscose makes it look a little more daytime-ish, but lots of people are making them out of satin and silky kind of fabrics, and you are in danger of looking a little bit like you've got straight out of bed, because we all waft around in bed in satin and silky down, you know, dresses, don't we? Anyway, you know where I'm going. A little bit too underweary for me, but a really nice dress. There's the by Masin Sicily slip dress that I have made before, and that's the one. There are two versions of it. One I think is just a V-neck, and the other one has a cowl neck. And I have made that before, and it's that dress is what made me think that I couldn't get a long enough length out of a bias cut dress, because obviously you're putting your pattern piece on the bias and your fabric is, on the straight grain like that. So to put it on the bias, you're doing that. So it limits how much you can get lengthwise. And I was absolutely convinced that I couldn't get a longer length out of it in a dress form. That was based on the fact that I'd made the Sicily slip dress. And because it has a cowl, your bodice is kind of doubled or even tripled, because, the cowl piece, not attaches, it's a single piece of fabric, but it folds here. So you can imagine you kind of duplicating the bodice. And therefore it's a much longer pattern piece. It's a really lovely dress, that, and I think that the instructions on how to sew on the bias on that particular pattern are really, really good. It's just, I've made that one and I wanted extra length, and I wanted this sort of triangular thing here. Nice dress though. Closet Core Simone dress. Lots of people mentioned that. And I gave that one a swerve, only because, again, I think that's a little bit more like lingerie. It's one of those that has seams under the bust, and I think possibly a little tie at the back, or that may be an option. And again, I find those seams under the bust really tricky to get right. I don't even have the biggest bust in the world, but I've made things with those seams and they kind of end up halfway, cutting your boobs in half, and it's again a whole level of palaver I didn't want to get into. What else have we got? The Fibre Mood Summer, and I've put brackets A-line skirt, and I think that was my overall feel with it. It didn't have the kind of slinky lines that I wanted and that I felt that I got when I tried the All Saints leopard print dress on. So wasn't quite right, but it's another good option. And then there's the Tessuti Sadie dress, and that is what I went for. Now, I did manage to get a tiny bit of extra length, about maybe 3 centimetres. I extended it lengthwise as much as I could, given the limitations of the fabric. And I am almost hitting my docks, but not quite. But enough that I don't feel I've got that funny bit of leg poking out. I went online, and as you do, I'm sure lots of you do the same thing, I googled what the reviews were for this dress, and nearly all of them said that they had problems with the facing. So it has got the sort of triangular bit here, and it has got these very thin spaghetti straps. As you can see, I am dealing with bra straps underneath, and very annoyingly I found that all my black bras had these 2 strap jobbies. So I probably need to go and get one that doesn't. But anyway, I am not overly bothered about that, to be honest, as a look. I know some people don't like it. But yes, they have the spaghetti straps and the look, and it wasn't as wide and as sort of floaty as the Fibre Mood pattern. It was exactly the silhouette that I wanted, so I was really pleased. But all the reviews said that the facing on the inside, which is basically mimicking this bit of the bodice and round at the back, was, once they made it, popping out and making a bid for freedom, and ending up with that sort of weird thing where your facing starts to do, I don't know if you can see it, but the facing starts to do something like that and starts sneaking out. Well, all I did was I added some extra length to that facing, so it wasn't as short. I think, looking at it, that it would probably have only been about that deep. And I understitched, as the instructions, and I put some seam tape on the, did I do it on the bias, on the facing piece or on the, trying to have a feel, no, I did it on the facing piece. So yeah, on these bits here and here that are on the bias in effect, are they? Scrambles my head a bit, that. Anyway, on these bits here, I put some seam tape on the seam allowance, making sure that it's sort of straddled where I'm going to be sewing. And between that, I interfaced the facing as well. So between the interfacing, the seam tape, the extra length, did stitch it in the ditch at the side seams, I seem to be okay. It doesn't seem to be wanting to poke out too much, possibly a tiny bit here where it sort of does that, but not to the extent that I'm concerned. The other thing that I found is that I did use the technique that's mentioned when you make the Sicily slip dress by Masin, got a mental block on that now, where she suggests that you sew it with French seams and you use a zigzag. So, because in effect the bias is creating a little bit of stretch, and when we sew with stretch fabric we sew with a zigzag. So I did that. Now Tessuti don't say that on their instructions, but I feel that that has given me a really nice finish. I did have to do a bit of adjusting, but I did have the good sense to try it on my first pass of the French seams and not the second pass, so I only had one lot of seams to undo. But I really like it. I did do the sensible thing and hang it up overnight before hemming it. All in all, I'm really, really pleased, and whilst I'm tempted to do a satiny type one, I do think that this whole closet, curated closet business is making me think far more carefully about anything that I make or buy. Hold on. That's not helpful. And I think that the ones that are satin don't feel as daytimey. I know if you look at all the sort of fashion images, they're very much a daytime look. But I've made 2 satin slip skirts, and to be honest, they haven't been worn a whole lot because they do feel a bit like I'm overdressed for the daytime. And I do think that making one out of a print really kind of reduces that, and for me makes this more wearable. I also feel that a print disguises lumps and bumps a bit more, and we know that bias dresses tend to cling, and yeah, I just feel a little bit more confident in it being a print version. Just noticed that I made a note to say mention the darts, and I didn't mention the darts. One of the things that's quite nice about this dress is that it gives you the option, it is completely optional, to have darts in the back. And take it off again. And for me, I really like that because lots of us women have this. I am definitely somebody that has a sway back, a real, a curve or a sticking out bum, if you want to put it that way. And I definitely found, I mean, they're not the biggest darts, they're quite narrow, but I definitely found having those darts at the back really, really helped with that. And I didn't end up with fabric pooling at the back here. So I really like that as another option as well. So that's kind of what I've made so far. I am starting to make a few other things now. I've identified holes in my wardrobe, but as I say, have a look at the poll and let me know there whether you want to know more about that whole wardrobe process or whether you've had enough of it. I did just want to say I think today is officially Black Friday. I don't know about you guys, but I am sick to death of it. I feel like whatever your interests are, my emails are just full of companies with discounts, and it's really got to the point where I just don't even want to open my email box now because I'm constantly afraid of missing out on something, which of course is why they do it. You know, I've got family to buy for Christmas, and I'm finding myself thinking, I better check the emails just in case there's, you know, if I miss out on 30% discount on something that I later buy in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be so annoyed. And it's making me quite sort of stressed and anxious. I've had enough of it. So I decided a couple of days ago to just ignore. And if there happens to be a Black Friday discount on something that I was going to buy anyway, happy days. I have, however, bought a couple of things. One is Stashub. I don't have any affiliation with them or anything. Stashub is an app that you can put on your phone, and you use it to log your stash, both your fabric stash and your patterns, and it's specifically designed for the sewing world. I have all my patterns on Trello, which is just a generic app. It's not specifically for us, and I have no intention of taking all the millions of patterns off Trello and moving them over to Stashub. But I have been flirting with the idea of logging my fabric stash, and I've tried, there's a free version of it and a paid version. A couple of times I've tried the free version of Stashub, and after a very short period of time I found myself just thinking, oh, this is just turgid. I think of better things to do than be measuring my fabric and taking photos of it and logging it onto Stashub. However, my lovely friend Rosie Rycroft said to me on a message that she was doing hers an hour a day, and that kind of clicked with me. I thought, oh, actually, that probably is quite achievable if you just do it in drips and drabs and don't attempt, I mean, depending on the size of your stash, of course, but for me, don't even attempt to do it in one go. Doing it in small chunks is far more achievable. So that was my intention, and then I noticed that for their paid membership they are offering a half price deal until the end of November. So that was something I was going to do anyway. I think with the paid option you have far more items that you can log onto the app, and it's very good. It is searchable. Rosie said that she was a bit astonished by how much value her stash was, because you can put how much you paid for the items. I'm not putting that in. That's going to be utterly terrifying. There's no way I want to know how much that stash has cost me. But it is really useful, and once it's done it will be brilliant. How long it's going to take me to do it is a whole other issue. But yeah, I'm just doing it in drips and drabs, even if I just have the odd 10 minutes, because it's upstairs and it's I've put all the fabric in my son's bedroom, and he's not here, he's at university, so I can just gradually just do a few bits at a time, stick the radio on or a podcast. It's much more achievable. So if you were thinking of doing Stashub, now is probably a good time if you want to do the paid version. As I say, I don't know them from Adam. And the other thing that I did was, do you remember again on that little non-shopping trip that I did, I tried on a dress from Mint Velvet, and I said I definitely want to replicate this, and it was jersey on the top, just really straightforward jersey top, and a gathered skirt, and it had 2 cargo pockets, and I thought that is so easy to replicate, and I loved it. So I thought, oh, brilliant, that'll be easy. Then what I hadn't thought about was that, oh, well, of course, I want my jersey fabric and my woven fabric to be the same colour. And I spent ages trolling through all the online fabric shops trying to find exact colour matches, and I thought the only way I can guarantee that is by going for some of the branded fabric, you know, the kind of Mind the Maker or Atelier Brunette. But not all fabric companies stock both a jersey and a woven. It was actually a lot harder to do than I anticipated. But I managed to find a way, because what I did was I put a post on Instagram and I said I was really struggling to find this matching colour on a jersey and a knit, and lots of people gave me some suggestions. But what was particularly good was 2 fabric companies got in touch, both small independently owned companies. One was System Intaka, so that's owned by Sandeep, and she got in touch and she had a good old rummage and we tried to make it work, but we didn't quite find what I needed. I did get success with Lamazi Fabrics. They also got in touch and said, think we can help you here, and they steered me in the direction of some really good colour matches, and I've got a parcel winging its way here. And as luck would have it, they were having, or they may still possibly be having, a Black Friday sale. So I have got a discount there. That could even be it now. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be brilliant? Let me go and see what that is. No, sadly not. Wouldn't that have been fortuitous? It would have been really good if that had happened to be the Lamazi fabric. Anyway, not to be. So yeah, just wanted to say that for those of you that are feeling overwhelmed by the Black Friday sales, I'm with you. But I think the way to deal with it is to just ignore it. And yeah, like I say, if it happens to be discounted, then happy days. But I was very appreciative to both those companies, to Lamazi and to System Intaka, for coming through and trying to help me out. And I do think that that is one of the nice things about shopping with a small business, and I would much rather give my money to a company that are giving you that extra little bit of service than, you know, one of the big conglomerates or the big organisations. Anyway, I shall try not to be quite so grumpy about Black Friday. You'd think people trying to give you a discount would be a good thing, but it actually just becomes too much pressure. So, thank you very much, everyone. I have, by the way, finished my Jessica jacket. I only needed a button and some pressing, so at some point I'll put that on, but I think you've probably seen enough of it. It is looking really good. Yeah, so I'm just going to sort of swish around in my little frock and see you soon. Let me know in that poll if you want to hear more about the Curated Closet. If not, we'll move on. All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye.